Hello, and welcome back to the Pure Nintendo Podcast. This is your weekly dose of all things Nintendo. My name is Gemma, and joining me this week, I have, do you want to say the reliable Kirk? Is he back again?
Yes, the reliable Kirk. I think more people need to acknowledge that going forward.
Yes,
Yeah,
agreed.
make t-shirts or something.
Yes, let's do that. Let's make that happen. And we also have a very special guest with us this week. We have Nick Cellini from Total Flip Studio. Thank you for joining us this week, Nick.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Nick, we'll get into Total Flip Studio and everything that you do and the wonderful game that's coming up from you as well during the show. We're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X, of course. Kirk, get excited. And a few other games that we're playing. But let's kick off. We have been counting down to the Switch 2, which the Direct is coming on April the 2nd. It's now, as of the launch of this episode, it'll be 9 days until the official Direct from Nintendo, where we find out all the details that we want to know about the Switch 2. We're obviously very excited. Kirk and I think. Kirk, does 9 days now sound worthy of excitement from your perspective?
Yeah. Plus, all the games that I was looking forward to are now behind me.
Yeah.
Which I mean they're in front of me to play.
Yes.
but
Yeah.
yeah, the countdown clock went off with Xenoblade Chronicles X, and now I'm looking forward to resetting it once we get a release date for the Switch 2. So bring
Nice.
it on. Let's
Bring it on.
get
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
direct happening.
Yes, we cannot wait. And Nick, we'd love your perspective as a developer. Have you been following all of the Switch 2 business? Are you excited? What does it mean for you as well as a developer? Like, is it going to change the game, or do you just hope it does, or or does not?
Yeah, it's a very exciting kind of time for me as well. I guess I've started conflating the countdown with of the Switch 2 with my own game. We kind
Hmm.
of decided on the launch date when we knew when this direct was going to happen.
Yeah.
Kind of tried to get it in just before it. We talked about having our launch date, some number of weeks or months after the direct, but
Hmm.
yeah, it was just kind of scary to understand or predict how much news, how much excitement there would be around the Switch 2, and all that kind of stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, my feeling about the Switch 2 is kind of I was always super excited, but now I have got this attached nervousness to it as well because it's like the same countdown timer in my head. Um,
Yes. Yes.
the thing that I got very excited about, I guess, when I first heard the leaks and heard about leaks, and I've since done research on, is just all of this upscaling
Mhm.
stuff, and I guess thinking about the technical ramifications of that. As a developer, the thing that I've been doing a lot, I guess, in the last 3 months and maybe a bit more, is thinking about optimization of our game
Mhm.
to run on the Switch, and then also, thinking about, I wish the Switch was the Switch too, and I didn't have to do any of this.
Yes.
Um, and kind of looking
Mm.
at frame rates and thinking about optimizing scenes and things and all these little details has really gotten me like noticing frame rates a lot more.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
after we've kind of I've started to kind of simmer development down as we come closer to release, kind of freezing code.
Yeah.
um, if anyone kind of doesn't know what that means, like the closer you get to release, the less large things about the code of your game or software you want to touch in case you break anything big. And so I've kind of just been, yeah, chilling out a bit more, trying to relax after a lot of kind of working hard to get things um, to the finish line. So yeah, I guess
Mm.
I picked up Tears of the Kingdom again, which I
Oh,
had been
yeah.
playing, a lot when it came out, staying up
Yeah.
far too many late nights because I'm a huge fan of Breath of the Wild, and when Tears of the Kingdom came out, I just couldn't stop talking and thinking about it. But I had to put it down because I was developing a game and it was just
Yeah.
taking
Yeah.
up too much time, and so I'm now kind of picking it up again. And
Oh,
it's
that's
funny, like
cool.
after, like I said, thinking about optimization so much, and then I've been just launching and running Tears of the Kingdom. I'm just astounded at how my expectations for frame rates have been kind of lowered so much.
Mm,
Because Tears of the Kingdom, well, Breath of the Wild as well, I suppose, but especially Tears of the Kingdom, the frame rate can get really dire sometimes. I say sometimes, it's pretty regular. You go into a
mm,
lush, environment, and suddenly you might be, hovering somewhere probably between 20 and 30 FPS, and I guess it can go pretty high. You can get up to 55 frames per second. So it's such a
mm.
crazy range. But to think that
Yeah.
I was playing the game and used to that kind of frame rate drops, now I'm just kind of like shocked every time I pick it up. Like, I'm used to this. I don't know. And it's
Wow.
nice to. It's also nice to think as well that I guess users, players, might be okay with that kind of thing. Do you guys have
Yeah.
thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know what you think, Kirk. I don't notice it a whole lot usually. It depends on the game, I suppose. But yeah, it's a tricky one. It's really interesting to hear your perspective on that, though, because as you said, you've got a game coming out this week. You're obviously concerned about things like frame rates for your journey, like for your game's journey. I don't know, Kirk. Do you have an opinion on that? Like even with
Yeah,
Xenoblade, for example, how's that frame rate looking?
that's looking fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, no problems with that so far. And curiously, I did see some reports that people have seen in the code that it has support for 60 frames per second,
Mhm.
which makes me think that there's something available when the Switch 2 comes out that it's either just going to be able to support that straight off or like a patch or something. I don't know. Nick, you may be able to better explain how that would work. But
Yeah.
regarding it, like the other game that I've been playing recently, Atelier Yumia has some horrible, horrible um, frame rate problems. And normally it doesn't bother me. They were kind of bad. Like I would go a whole second sometimes in a new area before the screen would spin to what it is I'm supposed to be looking at. So then
Mm.
it bothers me. But I guess if it's not really affecting gameplay, I don't get put out by it that much, mainly because I probably just have come to expect it on Nintendo
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
devices. But Nick, I do have a question for you. Do you think that gamers are more forgiving of it on a game like Breath of the Wild than it would be on yours?
Yeah, I'm very interested in people's expectations and things like that. And I was even thinking, you know, what you just said about Xenoblade. I guess I think is Xenoblade, they cap it at 30 FPS on the Switch or the Wii U version. Do you know that?
Not definitively.
Yeah, I think that's possibly the case. I was looking at a bit of gameplay, and it kind of looks like not that it dips at all, but just kind of like that it's not 60 FPS. And I guess I like to compare, like you say, kind of the user base of Nintendo players, players that are used to these kinds of things versus the PC gamers who love the highest frame rate possible. They love
Yeah.
that
Mm.
buttery smooth frame rate, and if it's not over 120 FPS, then it's not real gaming.
Yeah.
And yet here we are, very happy with our 30 FPS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
uh,
think I just want it to be smooth, right? I mean, if it's 30 and it's consistently 30,
yeah,
great. You know,
Mm. Mhm.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think you're right that there's, I guess when Breath of the Wild came out, people were kind of happy to see those little drops everywhere because it's such an amazing game. Otherwise, it's kind of a work of art. It's a beautiful thing, and to be honest, for them to even have got it running on the Switch, that piece of hardware was and is still an achievement.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah.
that being the case, I'm very excited to see what they're able to do on the Switch too, given that I know Nintendo is so good at squeezing everything they can out of hardware and their own hardware, I guess.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
like I think I may have mentioned, the AI upscaling tech that they're going to have in there. Even without that, I think that they're going to be great at optimizing their games and getting as much performance as possible. So yeah, I'm really curious to see like how they go at maybe re-releasing games that people already love, or just updating them so that they have, compatibility with the Switch, or high res textures. But they may
Mm.
not even have to do that, because I think the upscaling technology that they have in there can actually perform the upscaling on the 3D model textures themselves, as well as the rendered game. So maybe a lot of games won't need to be touched, and that they'll just be able to come out and look so much better because of these AI upscaling tech that they've been focusing on. So yeah, I'm a bit scared that they might kind of ride this train where they'll try to squeeze everyone's wallet and re-release games. Like have HD versions that you need to buy, which is just the
Mm.
same game, but now it's optimized for the Switch, or we've re-released textures.
Yeah.
I
We've had
really
a lot
don't.
of that with the Switch, haven't we, already? Because the Wii, a lot of games on the Wii U obviously were overlooked because the Wii U was not a success. You would hope they wouldn't do that again so soon with the Switch too, right? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't do another version of Xenoblade Chronicles X, for example, straight away, would you? I don't think. But yeah, you're thinking like Breath of the Wild if they'd re-release that as opposed to upscaling the existing game. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. For
Yeah.
instance, I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like Xenoblade Chronicles X, if that's the name. Sorry, I don't follow Xenoblade very closely. Um, I suspect that game is kind of like for the Switch too, and
Yeah.
like you said, Kirk, it sounds like they've probably got a switch in the code, a little toggle that will turn on when it's played on the Switch too, to make it
Yeah.
Mm.
10 times
It'll be
better.
cool because you've got it, Kirk. You have the physical version, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you'll when you get the Switch 2, whenever that comes out, it'll be really interesting to see from your perspective the difference in gameplay and graphics and how that looks and runs. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
I wonder if I should just not play it yet. If I finish it, it's a long game, so we'll wait and see when the Switch 2 comes out. This I
Hmm.
could play this for 200 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I do that and then the Switch 2 comes out, I'm not playing the game again just to enjoy better graphics. So hopefully the
No.
timing, works out here for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I think that's an important decision, because that's the way that I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom. I'm very capable, I think, at this stage to go and try to beat the boss of the main game. But I know myself, and I know that I'll just stop playing once I beat a boss, and I
Yep.
feel less
Mm.
motivated to kind of go around and do all the side quests. So I'm just kind of now meandering around the world, looking at my hero's path and seeing what I haven't explored, which is just kind of like very,
Yeah.
very much an experiential thing, where I just know
Mm.
I'm getting this feeling out of it. I'm just going to roam around, and it just feels uh, like classic Breath of the Wild nostalgia to me, because that's all I wanted to do in that game. At some stage, I got past the first beginning area, and then I was one once all the leashes were off. I really just loved, you know, roaming this way, seeing something in the distance, and letting my heart lead me.
I love that. That is such a good way to describe it because it is very much that style. Yeah. We spent a lot of time with it when it first came out, didn't we, Kirk?
Oh yes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about your game and your studio, Total Flip Studio, Nick. Do you want to give us some background on your role at Total Flip Studio, how the company was founded? What's the story behind Total Flip Studio?
Yeah, well, I've kind of just been an indie developer in Sydney, Australia, for a few years. It's kind of been, I guess, a passion of mine for a while, and I've done games and prototypes, and worked with a few other developers in the industry here. Before this, I released a puzzle game called Ashy Lake of Light, just kind of in my own name. I've also worked on some level design in a game called Boomerang Fu, and
Ah, That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I did I did maybe half of the level design in the base game. Um, the
Right.
the
Awesome.
developer is a really good friend of mine,
I
and
thought it was an Australian studio, wasn't it?
yeah,
Who does yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sorry.
So no, it's fine. Boomerang Fu is like pretty, I guess, influential in Which
Mm,
Way Up as well in terms of inspiration because yeah,
yeah.
the dev, he's a really good friend of mine, and he's kind of I followed his journey making the game from a very early point as well. We have
Mhm.
game dev meetups in Sydney that I go to, and it's where I met Paul and a bunch of other friends and colleagues now. And I think he worked on the game for something like 5 years before he released it, and yeah, it was amazing to see it from start to finish. And I think that the thing that I enjoyed most about it, I kind of just followed him around everywhere. We would go to all the same events, but I would always find myself standing near his game when he was showing it or playtesting it, giving him thoughts and advice if he wanted it or not. I was giving it to him, um, and
Nice. Is it like a Padawan Jedi kind of situation or
yeah, definitely. He's definitely been a great mentor to me, and friend. So yeah, I guess the thing that I really love about his game is that it's a party game, it's a local multiplayer game, and
Mm,
I've really just found that those games shine for me in these kind of convention or playtesting or game dev environments. And I think that's what kind of drew me to making a similar game of a similar genre, is that I just wanted to go through that process, because part of making a game, well, a big part of making a game isn't just that you want to release a game, it's that you want to spend 2 to 5 years of your life working too much on something that you don't know anyone will play or enjoy.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
because yeah, you have to get some motivation from somewhere, and yeah, you're making something kind of peculiar sometimes. A lot of game prototypes don't necessarily go anywhere, but developers are trying to make something innovative and yet
Mm,
like understandable or recognizable, something that people can be like, oh, it's like this game but slightly different. And so it's hard to find that balance sometimes. Sometimes it's too
yeah.
quirky and too new, or sometimes it's too similar to other games. So it's a big journey and a fun one, but it can be very, I guess, tiresome if you're working on long projects over a number of years. Um, yeah, so I the reason I started Total Flip Studio was basically because of a grant program in Australia that came up, or that I heard about, called the Game Production Fund, or it was called something else when I first applied for it, and they changed some grants. But it's a
They do
grant
that a lot.
hosted. Yeah, they've redesigned them a lot, which is good a lot of the time. It's kind of, yeah, they're very good at listening to the community. Um,
That's good.
but yeah, they Screen Australia hosted these grants, and I applied for it twice, and missed out, and then I got a grant on the third try. And so I was lucky to kind of get that, and it allowed me to build a small team, or kind of expand my tiny team, and work on it
Yeah,
for something like a year, and get it to a place where I could kind of just finish it off and polish off a few remaining things on my own.
yeah,
Um,
so cool. How big is your team now?
I think the people who are still working on bits and pieces is probably
Mhm,
like 3, 4 people.
mhm.
It's really kind of like people come and go, and
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
now, everyone's just kind of polishing things off. I've got
yeah.
the core team. We started with Sydney, who is our lead artist, and Adam, who is our 3D artist. And it was just the three of us making the prototype at the beginning. And then
Mhm.
we got someone who I found on SoundCloud, actually, who I just thought their music happened to kind of, I just liked the aesthetic. I thought it would fit. they're called Memo Demo. They're kind of
Mhm.
like the the audio or composer lead. And then
Cool.
yeah, after the grant, we got a couple of programmers to help out. I've had QA, a quality assurance person in the industry help out for a bit as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of it's gone up. I think most people at the same time is probably like 7 or 8, but between
Yeah.
part time and not, now it's like 3, where everyone's part time except for me.
Yeah. And what's the name Total Flip Studio? How did you come up with that? That's a really cute name
Yeah,
to
I don't
me.
know. I think I I found a I was just going through studio names and deciding what the algorithm was for good studio names. And I always found that a lot of them had an animal or some sort of personified uh, or embodied character, something that you could
Mhm.
associate, yeah, personality to. And then it's almost like a verb or an action, or that they're doing something, or or it's an adjective. So I wanted an animal, and I've always kind of loved turtles for some reason. And for some reason, my mum's been always obsessed with turtles. I remember she likes to tell this story about a turtle in Greece. She was on holiday, kind of walking slowly in front of a car that she was driving past, and
Right.
and there's like turtles all over my parents' place. So I don't know, turtles. They just keep coming up for some reason for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
and yeah, we just kind of iterated on what a turtle could do. And I think
Yeah.
also for me, I guess there's a link to Nintendo, the Little Koopas.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's a good
um,
link.
and, and I'm a big Nintendo fanboy, so
Yeah.
I liked that connection. I think any games that I would make, I would inevitably be somehow inspired by Nintendo games, because
Oh, that's
that's
awesome. Yeah.
mostly
Well,
what I
let's
play.
yeah. Yeah, right. Well, so do we. So well, let's talk about the game then, Which Way Up, and how I guess that idea came around because yes, I'll let you explain the link there, but there is a strong Nintendo game reference, I suppose you could say, in the gameplay.
Yeah, well, Which Way Up Galaxy Games is a party game involving a bunch of mini games. So the Galaxy games in the title are the mini games,
Mhm.
and you're choosing from 7 celestial characters. So they're all kind of almost embodiments of concepts that exist in the universe. Is kind of how I've thought about them.
Mhm.
Um, like we've got Sprout, which is just kind of like life and organic ideas, and then there's another character called Prism, which is kind of like an embodiment of light, and so its head is kind of like a glass pyramid, which some people have told me is not a pyramid, is not a prism. So that's an important
Right.
detail to remember.
Okay.
But yeah, you choose from one of these characters who they don't have any special abilities themselves. They're all just aesthetic, and you play across round after round of kind of randomized um, mini games, and try to win as many rounds as you can against your friends.
Cool. Yeah. Simple but effective. And just like Boomerang Fu, I guess, in that sense, like you said, local multiplayer and, levels that are quick and sharp, right? And, there's obviously a goal to do in each one. But the main connection, I suppose, and I've, obviously played this game because I got to play it at PAX last year, which was awesome. And I'll be reviewing it as well in the next week or two. So looking forward to that. But it's got a very strong, you mentioned the word galaxy. Mario Galaxy springs immediately to mind because of the gravity element that you've got going on. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the reminder. For some reason, I forgot.
That's okay.
Um, it's a huge inspiration. Yeah, Mario Galaxy is one of my favorite games, and the reason I started prototyping this game is because I was watching, I think, a YouTube video of either a game developer or someone who's just interested in unpacking games and understanding how they work under the hood. I think their name was Jasper. They made a video about like the programming of Mario Galaxy, And it's just really explaining how the gravity works in the different on the various planets that that are in the game, and I just found that super interesting for some reason. And uh, the fact that it was, I guess, quite a little bit of a technical challenge, and that kind of, I think it kind of came out of a prototype that someone was making to kind of show off the performance capabilities, and like I think that it's kind of sprouted from that. So yeah, I was always just kind of interested in just understanding how that works and trying to implement it myself in a 2D world.
Mm,
And
mhm,
I think the other thing that struck me with Mario Galaxy is that it, while I love the game, I think that it definitely has its moments where it's a little bit tricky to control
mhm,
um, with the camera and rotating around planets, for instance. Like I think that's kind of what I one part that I love about the game is that I like to break it almost. It's like find those little
yeah,
points where you kind of walk around or you run around this point on a planet and you're kind of like forcing the camera to do this really awkward rotation that doesn't look good, or
mhm,
you like do a long jump from one side of this planet to another that's flat, and then you can kind of in, try to launch yourself into an infinite orbit or something like that. um, so I think that aspect is always fun. There's this kind of organic gravity system which you don't find a lot of the time in platformers because everything is designed in a very controlled way. Like,
mm,
a designer will kind of place platforms in a very specific tile distance away from each other because they know that or they want you to not be able to reach that.
yeah,
Um, but in a world of kind of gravity systems, it's a little bit tricky to design that kind of thing because you can kind of perform all sorts of weird slingshot maneuvers and launch yourself into gravity and kind of just fall away from planets. So
yeah. It's
it's
an interesting, yes, I guess to play with that format and use that gameplay style because then you've got things like how many modes are there in this game? How many gameplay modes are there or party modes?
there are 12 mini games or
12.
Galaxy
Yeah.
games. Yeah.
Yeah, Galaxy games. And one of them, for example, I think it's called Hole in One, which is a bit like a golfing sort of style where you have to get the ball into the hole, but obviously it's using gravity elements to get it in is
Mm,
really an interesting concept, because it's not just a straight shot and it's not just going up and over and down. It's like going around and I love that, and especially because it's the 2D element to it as
mm,
well. So yeah, it's a really clever concept, I think, and
yeah.
one that I hope will resonate with players really well because, yeah, you've released on Steam already. Is that right?
We've got a demo on
A
Steam.
demo. Yeah.
We're
Cool.
releasing on both platforms at the same time.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
March the
we
27th
yeah
is the release, the full release, which is this week, obviously.
yeah that's right.
Very
It's very
exciting.
scary. Please stop saying that it's a week away
Yeah.
because it really scares me. It's awesome. I can't believe it's happening, and I suspect my life will continue as normal after the release of this game, but it
Yeah.
certainly doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
What's a big
super.
deal? It is a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting to have a game on the Switch as well. So that's been a whole new experience for me, and
Hmm.
navigating using the Nintendo's kind of systems and understanding how to go through all those processes is kind of like it's been a bit of a dream, I guess, to put a game on a Nintendo system. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's been really
That's
fun.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. And has it been the process itself with Nintendo, how has that been for you? Is it arduous
yeah.
or
It's a learning curve for sure.
Mhm,
I think I don't know if I would call it arduous. I would probably just say that it it does require a bit of patience at times,
mhm,
but I
mhm,
don't think that's necessarily unique to Nintendo. Um, that is I believe it's similar on all sorts of other consoles, and I think it's even gotten better over time. Hearing
mm,
from other developers, just the fact that there's a lot for these companies to kind of get through in terms of the sheer volume of games that they're trying to, review or do little changes on their store pages or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all these very specific things that, if you want to do, this small specific change over here, then there might be a feature where you can do that very easily, or maybe you have to send an email or create a forum post on
Yeah,
a different internal site, which you need to
right.
create a new login
Oh, yeah,
for or
well,
whatever.
I mean, that's a good example. Can you edit the store pages yourself, or do you have to send something to Nintendo, like the eShop listing on Nintendo's website, for example? Can you edit that directly, or you
Yeah,
just
you have some
yeah.
controls over
Yeah,
that
okay.
for sure, but there are limitations, and
Yeah.
I think it's just time because they go through review processes and stuff like
Mhm. Yeah. But I think when you see on your Switch, when it launches and you open up the eShop and you see your game listed there, that's gonna
that.
be a pivotal moment, very exciting moment.
Yeah,
I can
so
only imagine what that would feel like.
yeah, our eShop is up and it's been up for I think
Oh, so you can see
a
it
few
on there
weeks.
already. That's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a funny thing, and yeah, it really it shocks me, and I love seeing the little tile on the home screen as
Mhm.
well of our artwork.
Yeah.
And
Oh, nice. Yeah, of course. That's brilliant. So people can they download it in advance? Like, is it a pre-order situation or it's just coming soon if people saw it,
I
after
think
listening
it's
to the
just
show, for example?
I think it's just coming soon.
Mhm.
I don't think
Okay.
we've activated pre-orders or anything like that, but yeah, there's the little wish list heart button, I think,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
yeah, it should be available on March 27th.
Nice. Well, we
Yeah,
hope our listeners will go and wishlist it, prior to Thursday the 27th. It's
that would
probably
be
hard to
amazing.
answer this question because you're so focused on this game, but what happens next? Like, after the game's out in the wild, I guess there's promotional activities. What are you gonna do next with your life?
That's
Maybe go on
such
a
a
break to Japan.
such a good question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot recently.
Right.
I don't really know
Yeah.
yet. I think I'm
Okay.
just trying to stay neutral, have no expectations,
Mhm.
and just see what happens. I guess because
It's going to finish Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yes.
exactly right. That's what I've been doing. That's the only plan right now. To be honest, I'm excited to see what happens with the Switch 2. I feel like
Mhm. Mhm.
that who knows could bring an opportunity um, for updating the game to support some feature or something like that.
Mm.
I found it, and I do find it interesting. The whole Joy-Con mouse situation. Um,
Yeah. Mhm.
I floated the idea to the team that maybe we could make a mini game with using a mouse or a cursor or something like
Yeah,
that, where
right.
you're like editing a gravity system to kind of
Cool.
perform some sort of goal um, with a mouse. I thought that would be kind of cute to try to use that as a mechanic.
Yeah,
Um,
brilliant.
and yeah, I guess maybe we'll just want to update the game to. I guess I wouldn't have to optimize it at all for the Switch too, because everything's backwards compatible, it should be
Mm.
perfect
Mhm.
and run even better. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
but I'm just keeping an open mind, and yeah, I'm just kind of excited to see what happens, and that's
Yeah.
round the corner as well. The Switch 2 um, like announcement or next
Yeah,
little news event.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah, we'll be dedicating, I guess, an episode to that once it happens, of course. Hopefully, we'll have a lot to talk about, I imagine, Kirk, won't we? When the
I
Switch
think
2s
so. Yeah.
happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we'll
definitely.
be busy.
Yeah. Did you have any questions for Nick, Kirk, before we move on to maybe some Xenoblade?
I don't have a question. I do have a suggestion for our listeners, though. Listening to you talk about it and reading the description in the eShop, definitely go check it out in the eShop and watch the video that's there because I think it really does a good job of helping show what the gameplay is. Even
Mm.
reading some of the descriptions of the 12 games, I'm like, well, it sounds fun, but I don't understand what some of it means. But when you watch it in practice, I'm like, yeah, actually, that does look like it'd be pretty cool. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Definitely. Check out the trailer. We'll put this trailer into this conversation on YouTube as well. You might be listening on Spotify, but if you're on YouTube, you'll see bits and pieces as we're talking as well. So you'll get the feel for the game that way as well. But yeah, definitely looking forward to the exciting release date, Nick. But stay with us for the rest of the show as we talk about some other games.
Oh, I do have a quick question for Nick.
Oh, okay.
Any plans for a demo?
On the Switch,
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that it's in the pipeline.
Okay.
That's a great
Great.
question. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm curious to see how that might change any numbers or anything like that. Because I assume a lot of users, a lot of players, will be just going through the store and downloading free demos where they can. Um,
Mm.
but I
Yeah.
think just anecdotally from other game developer friends, it does help, but not that much. So yeah, what do you guys experience with demos? Do you kind of seek them out? Definitely download them before you get any game, or like you
That's
try
a
maybe indie games if they have a demo. Yeah.
It's a good question. What do you think, Kirk? You probably maybe play more demos than I do. I don't know. Do you play a lot of demos?
Most of the time, honestly, the demos that I get are games that I'm probably going to get anyway. So, you can get
Mm.
a head start on them if your progress carries over. I do it that way. There have been a couple times, though, where I didn't know much about a game and downloaded the demo and fell in love with it and ended up buying it. So that has happened. Um, but otherwise, there would have to be some interest in the game up front, as opposed to just randomly, grabbing a demo to see what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm the same in terms of I probably wouldn't download, excuse me, I wouldn't download a demo for a game I wasn't interested in. And generally, demos, the ones that I get would be for bigger games like, I don't know, Trials of Mana, for example, like an RPG style. That
Mm.
has yeah, like Kirk kinda said, you can play it for a decent amount of time, like an hour or 2, and it will translate into the full game later on.
Yeah.
It's tricky with kind of these types of games, I suppose, isn't it? Because what do you put into the demo? Do you just put 1 of your 12 Galaxy games or,
Mm,
time limited? Like, yeah, how does that work?
on the Switch, we have 6 of our games, so half of the mini games, and we
Mm,
lock 2 of the characters.
right, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
a pretty decent demo, I'd
yeah,
say.
I would say so. But
Yeah.
I guess it's hard to. I think it was hard for me to decide to lock too much more content because the experience really is an accumulation of playing a bunch of
Yeah.
mini games and kind of
Yes. Yeah.
feeling the randomness of that choice. So if I only
Mm.
included one mini game, for example, it would just feel like that game. And sometimes we've found with playtesters that some people really like mini game A, some people like C, or they're good at one and bad at another one.
Mhm.
So you'll kind of favor certain ones when you're playing against friends, maybe um, because you'll always win. So yeah, I kind of had to make that difficult choice of what's that magic number. Uh, but yeah.
Yeah, it's true. But I guess if I'm on the fence of a game and I am worried about spending it, particularly for bigger, more expensive games, and I do try it and like it, like Emio, for example, from Nintendo last year. That was a demo that I tried. I still haven't bought the full game, but I'm actually thinking about buying it this weekend because it's on sale on Amazon. Um, but the demo was awesome and it made me really want to play the game. I just haven't got around to buying the full game yet. But that's one that I wasn't 100% sure of, and
Mm,
after trying the demo, it did convince me, even though even though I haven't got it yet. It's been on my mind the whole time. Like, I haven't let it go. I guess Fairy Tale was another one that I was really interested in, and I think they had a free play. I tried it at PAX actually 2 PAXes ago as well, but then they had a free what do they call it? The free trial thing where it's, like, free for the whole weekend or something? The
oh
full
yeah,
game. Yeah, and I played
yeah,
it a lot that
cool.
weekend. Decided I wanted to buy it, so then I did buy it. So it definitely works. I guess it just depends on the player as well, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
tricky.
like you said, it
Mm.
might depend on the genre as well. But yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
let us know if you do have a demo and we'll promote it because,
Yeah, thank you
that's what
so
we do.
much. It will be
Yeah.
coming out at some stage, maybe like a week or two after release. It would have been
Okay.
great to kind of pop it out before we released, obviously,
Mhm.
but yeah, it can just be difficult to kind of get things running on the Switch, do that testing and optimization, and then go through those review processes. So it's been
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
learning experience for me, kind of
Yeah.
learning about these timelines and what's involved.
Well,
So
imagine
yeah.
how much easier it'll be next time when you, with your next game, whenever that might be.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
hopefully.
it's a lot smoother. Yeah, because you'll know what to do. You'll be a pro by then, and you can be the master, and someone can be your Padawan. So maybe Kirk, you wanted to develop a game, didn't you? Do you want to be Nick's Padawan?
Oh, I don't have that kind of skill.
I think it's mostly just patience, as any master of the Force would probably say.
Yeah, that's so true. My kids, because I've been to the last two PAX events in Australia, and that's where I met you, Nick. And my kids have been with me a couple of the days out of the event, and get so inspired. It's such an inspiring event, honestly. And my kids both, especially my youngest, he's 11, he wants to develop a game and show it off at PAX. I'm like, that is awesome. It's a lot of work. Like, do you have an
Yeah.
idea? Like, yeah, but it is so inspiring. And to see all the developers at, and, because there's so many indie developers at these events, to see them and talk to them, to people like you, Nick, it is very inspiring. It really, really is. You guys do a fantastic job. Um, and you're so passionate. So, yeah, I think I
Uh,
appreciate it, honestly.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to hear. And yeah, I hope your son does make something. I guess I the one piece of advice well, one piece of advice I do like to give
Yeah.
aspiring game devs is that they should really try to kind of design their ideas as like to so that they're creating something as compact as possible, because
Hmm.
it's really nice to finish something that has a loop, like a game loop in it.
Hmm.
um, and I think the truth of the matter is that you just want to try to make as many experiences. I won't say games, because you make these little prototypes and they aren't necessarily games, but then maybe you
Hmm.
could call them experiences. um, and to make as many of them as possible, and they're all little learning experiences, and they all kind of help guide the future things that you're making. So, like, making just small things that have a loop, like the player jumps to the right of the screen and there are spikes and closing them. And then when you die, you have to start again. That's like a really simple demo to make for a game developer.
Hmm.
And it just that project and being able to finish it in a short space of time would teach you so much. And then you can say, oh, I made a game. And it's true.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so I think, yeah, making small things, especially at the beginning, is a really nice way to kind of inform your motivations,
Mm.
and get you excited to do more and make more as
That's
you learn.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. And I guess because then you complete that small task, that experience, as you call it, and so you feel accomplishment for doing that, and then you're more motivated to like try something new. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love that mentality. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Nick. So, listeners, if you are interested in Which Way Up, it is coming out on the Nintendo Switch on the 27th of March. Go and wishlist it right now. We'll wait. In in the meantime, Kirk, is it time to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles X and your time with this definitive edition so far?
yeah. Let's finally, after boy, I've there was a point, as I've mentioned before, because I had the game on the Wii U and it was one of my favorite games on the Wii U. But
Mhm.
when I bought the Switch, I wasn't as big a fan of the Xenoblade Chronicle games as I was, and I traded it. I sold it. It wasn't until Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, which I liked more, that I thought this might be something. And then 3 came out, and then they gave us the definitive edition of the first one, or maybe I have those flipped. That this became one of my favorite series. So I was always so sad that I traded in Xenoblade Chronicles X because I thought I would like to play it again. And now I get to do it. And boy, does it look better than ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
such a good looking game. I got about 8 hours into it yesterday. I mentioned I ended up only taking a half day off work this time,
Oh, did you?
not a full day. Yeah, and
That's a shame.
some other errands. Um, but yeah, so I spent quite a bit of time with it, and yeah, I think it looks great. Switch 2 or not, it's just a gorgeous game, um, with a very wonderfully laid out world to
Mhm.
explore. In fact, that really is most of the game. Um, that's both good and bad is the exploration. But there are still some issues like clipping is a thing. Like when you're fighting any of the monsters, you will just disappear into them during the fight
Right.
and then come right back out. It's strange, but it doesn't impact anything, so I don't care. Like I would rather that happen than have like weird detections or something that where there's no way a monster hit me and they're saying that it did, that kind of thing. um
Mhm.
so but yeah, so far so good.
Well, that's great. Are there any differences besides the graphical upgrades
Yeah,
that you
there
yeah?
are, and most of them, well, there are two. I say yes because I've read that there are. I played this game so long ago that some of the user enhancements, the quality of life enhancements, I guess we'll say, I don't know what they are versus the original because it's just been too long
Right.
since I played it. One thing I know for sure is, in fact, I mentioned this as one of the ones that I was hoping was coming. Um, the first time I played this game, you have to get these rare drops in order to solve some of the quests, and I mentioned before that there was this item I needed to pick up. It was in the water. It was in an ocean. It's after you get your skell, and you can kind of use it like a jet ski. You're hovering above the water, just looking for these little lights. They're kind of like little indicators that appear on the landscape, and you can go over them and see what it is. But you have no idea what they are. So I was just driving around on the water for, I swear, at least an hour, trying to pick up this thing that I really needed. I haven't gotten to that point in the game yet, but there was another mission that was similar, and they now tell you which of the drops includes the item that you're looking for. So on the map, there will be like a little exclamation mark above it, letting you know this is one of your quests. You need to pick this one up. They do the same with the monsters that you have to fight. If you need to harvest something from one of those monsters, one of their drops, they will let you know which one, what type of monster has it. That doesn't mean you're going to get it, but you at least
Right.
know which monsters to fight.
Yeah.
So that really streamlines things and will make it much less frustrating when you got to finish a quest and you just can't do it.
Oh, that feels like a really big kind of game design change and would really change the experience of maybe grinding through objectives and missions. I think I also looked up that there was another feature change to do with the party system and how you would customize your party. Is that true?
Maybe.
I think in the Wii U game, you had to kind of go around the main city and kind of ask each person you wanted to join your party specifically. And that required a fair bit of time to do that. But I think now you can customize your party like on the go or something like that. But
I hope so. Yeah, that would be really good too. They have there in both games there was a recruitment board where if you needed like a certain type of fighter to go help you, you could just go pick that up. And I'm wondering if that's what that is now, where you don't have to go all the way back to New Los Angeles, which is kind of like the hub as you go out to explore the world. You could just call them and they appear out on the field. That would save a lot of travel back and forth.
hmm.
So
Mm.
yeah, that would be cool if that's the case.
There's no, like, quick travel mechanism?
There are,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and you certainly will want to use it quite a bit. As you progress through the game, you can unlock quick travel points, so you have to get there first, obviously.
Yeah, of
You
course,
could
yeah.
always go back to New LA, but even then, you're still having to run around the city because it's not going to drop you off right where you want to be.
Mm.
Um, and if you get the person, then you may, if you haven't unlocked the quick travel point with the monster that you're fighting, you would have to run around that whole area and try to find it, or plant a probe is one of the things that you do throughout. So this would allow you to have that fight, beat that monster without first having completed the area in which the monster is located.
I think it's always a really interesting balance, I guess, in games, or a balancing act where the player is often felt made to feel like they have to work hard to do certain things. Like I guess it's the grind versus the reward, and how the grind starts to feel easier over time. And it sounds like maybe in Xenoblade, this new version, that maybe they've tried to reduce a little bit of the friction in the grind, making it easier for players to do certain things, or get rewarded a little bit faster. And I think I find that to be a nice thing, because I'm always frustrated when like a quest tells me I need a specific thing, but if I'm unable to, like, I decide to focus in on that thing. Like, I'm gonna do this now. I know that I want this thing, so I'm gonna go to that place and find that thing. But if I happen to struggle or something like that, suddenly I've spent, 30 minutes looking for this one thing. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Am I enjoying this game? Like, why did I would have spent this half an hour enjoying myself, maybe just wandering around, picking things up, or having random encounters, instead of feeling frustrated and not being able to do something. Do you guys ever have a similar experience?
Yeah, and especially if the thing you're looking for is a really, really rare drop. I mean, I'm fine running around for 10, 15 minutes to find something if I know eventually I'm going to find it. But if they make that really hard to obtain, then do something to speed up that process. Because if I've got a 1 in 100 chance of picking up, I'm trying to remember the name of one of the items that I could grab. Then at least do something to show me like a smaller area or whatever where it's likely to be, as opposed to me just running, all over the landscape trying to locate something that, for a lot of these quests, don't really give you a whole lot to. They're not like very story driven. They're just something to do. So, don't make me waste an hour of a 120-hour game just because you want me to pick something up.
At what
Yeah.
point, question for both of you actually, as gamers, at what point does that frustration hit a peak and you run to like an online guide or something to help? Do you know what I mean? Like my
Yeah.
frustrations occur when I can't find something usually, and it might not be a drop. It might be just I cannot find the entrance to a cave or whatever it might be. And what's your threshold
It's a good
before you?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it tends to depend on the genre of the game. I think I
Mm,
have I give myself a higher threshold if I'm playing a puzzle game, because
hmm.
it's certainly like a pride thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like
Definitely
I
true.
have
Yeah.
a few friends I have in the dev community design puzzle games, and like there is a bit of a, like, you know stigma attached to looking things up in puzzle games, I
Yeah.
feel like, with some of these guys, these people rather. And
Mm,
I don't know, I feel really bad about looking stuff up, especially with puzzle games or puzzle moments, if I can't figure
hmm.
out something like that. But if it's something to do with like finding an object, or reading the quest the some quest text properly, I don't care at all. I'm just gonna like look it up. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it just requires some manual labor. I'm not losing any pride here. I'm very
Yeah.
happy to be told, and I can move on and have fun elsewhere. Um, so yeah,
Fair
that's what
enough.
it is for
Yeah.
me.
What about you, Kirk? What's your threshold?
Well, I feel like I can justify it because a lot of these games I'm reviewing, and I've got to get through them a little more quickly, I think.
Yeah.
So, what I'm more willing or more likely to do, though, is if I'm fighting a monster that I just cannot beat and I can't figure out what the strategy is, I will look that up to see what other people do or recommend,
Mm.
to equip, or what you're doing with your party to be able to fight it. If I feel like there's something that I need to find and I know it's got to be there, I will tend to just kind of look for it. And the benefit to doing that in a game like this is you're finding a whole bunch of other things in the process. And then eventually you're going to get a quest where you have to find 5 of a certain item. I've already got 20 because I found them randomly while I was looking for something else, and that quest is immediately finished. So, there are benefits to running around blindly for a while.
That's true. Especially in
But
something
yeah,
like, yeah, these games that we're talking about, Xenoblade and Tears of the Kingdom as well, you know, because like you said earlier, Nick, exploration, it's like it's all about that. Just finding what's out there, listening to your heart and journeying. The journey is part of the process.
I think it. I was just going to say something silly that it can teach you a lot about yourself. For me at least,
Yeah,
like
true.
getting stuck or getting obsessed with things. I guess as someone
Yeah.
who does kind of obsess over stuff and wanting to get things right or 100% things, I'll kind of
Mhm.
be telling myself, you know, is my time worth like investing into this little quest here? Or especially I think as I get older, and I have less time to play games,
Mhm.
and I guess you
Mhm.
guys reviewing games would have similar experiences where I'd be very happy when I was young, when I felt like I had hours of
Yeah.
free time to fill because I was bored. um, I would
Yeah.
just sit there and be happy to kind of grind away. I played many hours of World of Warcraft, so I
Yeah.
certainly had that kind of experience for a long time.
Mm,
But yeah, it's changing now, and I have to decide what games I'm going to play and what quests I decide to finish. Like, and also
definitely.
from a game design perspective, I try to kind of learn something, I guess. And so a lot of the time I'm finding that I'll get bored with games too soon, and it's a bit sad. Like once I've kind of discovered how all the systems work, I'll just want to move on to the next game because I'll kind of be like, does it feel like they're going to throw a wild card at me anymore, or is this it? Like, are these all the systems in place? I don't really need the content. I just want to understand how everything fits together, and that can be sad sometimes. And if I come across a game that doesn't make me feel that way, it kind of means to me that they've kind of got a lot of things right, and they've kind of captured a magic element that
Mm,
kind of maybe appeals to my nostalgia. I'm not sure.
yeah. No, that's an interesting perspective for sure. I love that. Kirk, do you have more to say about Xenoblade Chronicles X
Yeah, I'll
Definitive
say one more
Edition?
thing, and it actually goes in line with what Nick was saying, that this might be a good Xenoblade Chronicles game for you to try out then, because the thing about this game versus the other three is that it really does focus a lot more on the combat and on the exploration. The characters are fine, but there's like the others were so story driven and had so many big impact emotional moments. And unless they change something in here, and I know there is additional content, but the reason why I didn't like this one is because I wasn't at all moved by the story. I didn't care. The thing about it is the combat starts you off, you're just on foot and you're fighting, you have melee and like a gun that you can use, and then you get access to the robots, the skills, sorry, and you can fight with them, you can jump a little bit higher, and then suddenly you can use them on water, so now you're able to explore that way, and then you're able to fly. It's like throughout the whole game the combat continues to evolve as your technology and your abilities evolve straight up until the end. And of course, that also gives you access to new things on this planet. The focus is so much on the planet as the main character, really, as opposed to the people, that it just plays a lot different from the other Xenoblade Chronicles games. So I mentioned that so that if anyone has played one, two, or three on the Switch, don't expect you're going to get the exact same thing in this one. It's more about completing missions, exploring the planet, and that's kind of how you're attempting to save this civilization that has crash landed here, as opposed to there being a plot that you have to follow and really get to the end. There is a story, but it all just sits back to the actual exploration.
Mm, yeah. Sounds unique in that sense for sure. Would you say this is just a quick question about the scale of the environment that you're exploring? Because we've talked about Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild a little bit already on the show. they're obviously very big, especially Tears of the Kingdom has a huge area to explore. Would you know to compare how they might differ in scale?
I would say it's just about as big. It's like the thing I remember about the Zelda games is you could get up on those towers and look out and just see everything.
Mhm.
Um, you couldn't get there quickly. Um,
Yeah.
this game's different in that it hides a lot. It slowly unveils itself, and even once you do have access to all the different continents, it's not like you could just get to one spot and kind of see everything. You sort of have to warp back and forth to get there. So it plays out differently than that, but
Mhm.
it is just as big. And of course, there's no underground
Yeah.
or
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 Sky.
any, yeah, no floating sky islands that you could land on.
Yeah.
But there's plenty to do on Mira itself, so you don't need all that.
Mhm. Yeah, cool. How do you feel about that, Nick? Is this a game on your watch list now? Your
Oh,
wish
you're
list?
definitely, yeah, it's definitely moving up in the priority list after how it's being described. I'm curious about, I guess, your thoughts on maybe the aesthetics, like the artwork. Have they improved much in this version? Is it kind of very similar? But like, how do you feel about the yeah the world design and the art? Yeah,
Yeah, I think the art you're talking about from the previous version of this or from the other Xenoblade Chronicles games.
previous version, I guess. Yeah.
The art looks much more modern.
Mm.
The face, like I think there came a point where they decided that with Nintendo, especially from the Wii on, where they tried they stopped trying to make faces and facial expressions look realistic and started to go with kind of more of like an anime sort of cartoonish look to it that works a lot better. And I feel like they sort of applied that here. Um, so like the characters are much more approachable visually in that regard.
Mm.
The skells themselves, the planet, it just looks absolutely fantastic. And again, I don't have the Wii U version anymore, so I can't go back and compare it. But it really is a very stylized look. But this one, as opposed to some other games, especially in the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise, looks less cartoonish and a little more, I don't want to say realistic because Nintendo doesn't really go for that, but more video game like. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, that's really. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of the episode that maybe you're considering waiting for the Switch 2 before you know, get deeply into this game because, maybe it's going to be a completely different, better experience. Is that is that something that I should do? It does feel like it from like looking at the gameplay that it would look quite beautiful on in 4K, for instance, or in high frame rate, that kind of stuff. What do
Yeah,
you?
I think especially the frame rate could really help because some of the battles, the battle animations would be more smooth, but especially, like I said, the planet is just so beautiful that
Mm.
if they're able to bring that out in 4K, then yeah, I think it would look fantastic. So you can wait. I can't because I'm already in it now. I got to keep going.
Yeah.
But like I said, hopefully I just don't finish it. Hopefully as Gemma predicted, we get an early release on the Switch too, and I haven't quite reached the end.
Well, they're
Is
talking
it?
about it now. It's the thing that people are, you know, rumoring, if that's a word, spreading the rumor.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think I've heard that. That's really interesting. How much earlier, or how early are we talking?
like May as opposed to
All
like
right.
July or something. Yeah,
Mm,
that's
interesting.
the $1 million question. When will it be released? And we should find out. All things being equal, on April the 2nd. I mean, do you have an opinion on that, Nick? When do you think it might be released?
I guess I just wonder what would be holding them back, and I'm guessing it would just be supply chain stuff. Like
Yeah.
when they release, they would just want to make sure they can um, sell as many as they can for the demand.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
I suppose. Yeah, I don't know what could be done otherwise. If they wanted to release earlier, maybe they could release in certain regions, but and maybe do like a phased release in different regions. Maybe they would do something like that if they really wanted to release early,
Mm,
or maybe they've just been they know everyone's really pumped about it, and they've been like pushing on manufacturing. That would be
Yeah.
great. I don't really
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
they need to release earlier. It feels like everyone is on the hype train, and there's no reason for them to get off.
Yeah.
Um,
This
there's
is
going to
true.
be a good lineup of games. Um, I don't know. Yeah, do they need to release earlier as Nintendo? What do you
Probably
think?
not. And they all do what they want, I think, right? I think
Yeah,
I don't think they'll adjust their schedule too much. I don't know if the direct was planned for April the whole time. Some people think the January tease was rushed because everyone was leaking information, so they thought they had to put something out. But we don't
mm.
know. Nintendo, they kind of march the beat of their own drum. So I don't know if
Possibly
they really. Mm.
a good reason for them to push a release date back would be for a launch title, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like
Yeah, that's a good point.
if they know that, I don't know, what could we say would be a big launch title for them? For me, it's Metroid Prime 4 is a game that I'm super excited to play. I loved the
Mhm.
original Metroid Prime on the GameCube. So I don't know if, the audience to that is super big though. Um, so I don't know if that's like the launch title that they'll kind of point to, like kind of Breath of the Wild was.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't think it's as yeah, no, it's not as big as it really. Even though a lot of people are excited about it. I think Kirk might be counting himself among that number of excited people.
For Metroid Prime 4,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I think a lot of people
mm,
are excited, but maybe not as many as, say, a new Mario 3D game or I mean, we
yeah,
probably won't get a Zelda 3D game at this point, but a new one anyway. Yeah.
yeah. I think if they've maybe if their timelines have shifted on any titles that they're going to release at the same time, I think I reckon that would be the highest priority thing for them. And I'm really
Mm.
curious to see in this direct in a week or so what what games they're going to show off at the same time. That's going to be the most exciting part, I think.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think Kirk said that just last week, didn't you, Kirk? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think when they first did it, I'm much more interested in a direct that's going to focus on the games they're bringing to the Switch 2 than a deep dive into the hardware.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, Nick, probably especially as a developer, would like to know about the hardware, but we also wanna know
I
about the games, right?
feel like there's been quite a few leaks now that like a
Yeah.
lot of people are fairly
Yeah.
confident what the hardware is. I guess I'm
Mhm.
curious. Yeah, if they're going to focus on, because they could really focus on a few different things, and they'll probably do all of them, to be honest, because you've got the upscaling tech, and I guess the chip um, that just handles the rendering is just going to be much better than the previous generation. So there might be games that were previously, I don't know, like exclusives to Xbox or PlayStation, or maybe they've done like a weird deal with some other big studio that is usually only on the higher end consoles, and maybe we'll see some new game, like something weird will happen, like Halo on the Switch or something. I don't think that's going to
Right.
happen, but that's an example of some
Yeah.
like weird announcement. And then I think there's another direction which would be very Nintendo, which is like, you know, here's what's it called? Like Wii Sports. What are they? What's
Oh, yeah.
the Wii Sports for Switch called? I can't remember. Wii Sports Resort
Ah,
or Sports Resort. I can't remember,
no,
but
I can't Switch Sports? No, I don't know. I'm terrible with
yeah, I don't think
names,
it's
sorry.
that. But like some kind of like Nintendo esque mini game thing which would
Yeah.
focus on the new hardware, like
Mhm.
uses the mouse on the controllers, or I don't know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm very curious about this mouse, to be honest. Like how tightly they're going to integrate it with the system. Like, is there always going to be a mouse available if you just like pop it down on a surface on your
Yeah.
couch or
Yeah.
your table? Do you then just get to click around? Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's very
that would
interesting. Mm.
just kind of change the experience completely. And as a developer, I wonder if that would just like allow you to use kind of native mouse related functionality as if you were kind of releasing a game on Steam, for instance,
Mm,
um,
mhm.
which also just kind of changes the landscape for, I guess, first person shooters or anything with kind of an aiming mechanic. I think
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Hugely so. I think it'll make it a big impact. And something you said very earlier in the show, I hadn't even considered because obviously, yeah, there's that first person shooter kind of gameplay that, and generally on Steam, how, we use a mouse. But I hadn't considered, I think you mentioned level editing or something like that, like using a mouse to click around and move parts around, or you alluded to
Mm,
that kind of thing. That would be really cool. Like imagine Mario Maker with a mouse or something like that, like where you
yeah,
can move bits
totally.
around really easily. I think that'd be really cool. And then you've got, I guess, puzzle games as well. Anything that uses a mouse mechanic, like point and click, becomes a whole new thing. Whereas we're not having to rely on, a D-pad or whatever. We're able to actually use a mouse to point and click. Like there's so many possibilities there. Very exciting.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Mario Maker, I think, is definitely. I'm guessing that's going to show up in the announcement for sure. Um,
Yeah, that's a good prediction. Yeah, I think so. I think it's likely. We've gone over our hour, which is fine. We've had an excellent discussion. So thank you, Nick, for joining us. Do we have anything else we wanted to talk about quickly before we? I'm not going to talk about the game I'm playing this week. I'm going to hold it over for next week because we just haven't got time. But that's fine. Anything else we wanted to bring up before we close off for the week from either of you, Nick or Kirk?
No, I would just like to thank Nick for joining us. I think this is a good day to have you too, because your insight into some of the upcoming Switch 2 and the possibilities of games appearing on both systems and how they would be upscaled. It kind of answered some of my questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for having me. It's been
Yeah.
fun, and like actually coming onto the show kind of gave me an excuse to do a bit of more like research that I haven't done for a while into all these leaks that are all over the internet. So it's
Yeah.
actually got me very excited about the Switch.
Oh,
So
excellent.
this coming week is going to be a very big week for me.
Oh, a huge week for you. Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations in advance on launching your game on the Switch. Which Way Up? Yes. March the
Yeah.
27th. Cannot
And
wait
we're
to hear how that
excited
goes.
about that too.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's been an excellent discussion. I thank you both very, very much for joining me this week. Thank you, listeners. Please let us know your thoughts on if you're playing Xenoblade Chronicles X, if you're excited about Which Way Up, if you're excited about Switch 2. We hope you are. We assume you are. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on Blue Sky. You can check us out over there. We're also, of course, we have our website, purenintendo.com, which you can catch up on our reviews and news. And we also, if you'd like to support us, we are on Patreon. So you can head on over to patreon.com/pure Nintendo. We put together a physical magazine that we will send out to you following the Switch 2 Directors, our next issue, which will be all about Switch 2 goodness. So look forward to that. But thank you again. And until next week, game on, everybody. Bye.